that was when I grew up. Like that was fun for like a couple weeks and like everyone was like, yeah. Yeah.
I know, I got that thing yesterday.
Yeah, well, I saw that. We actually, someone from Calgary reached out to me. They're thinking about starting their own little thing. I was like, so I think Lisa, Carl, then just like telling them, giving them helpful advice on how to perform. I mean, you should always think fit, right?
Part of my argument.
Yeah.
Hi, friend. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. It's been a minute, right?
Since I saw this come up and I was like,
Yes, this is batch 2. No, plus our annual update. This is just the second one. The lead more information. So we have done so many UP items in the past year, thanks to Jenny Reynolds, who's just the go workforce. So we did the council policy update, we did the master plan update, we did the first batch of extensions. We are now doing the second batch of extensions. We are doing the annual informational item, and then separately but relatedly, there was like the franchise audit and those types of things that were not us. That was a different team, but we are involved tangentially, so that'll you. How are you doing? Do you have vacation soon? Yeah. Is that during recess? No. Yeah. Oh, okay, that's cool. I'm like, you keep looking around. I'm like, are we not?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Environment Committee meeting of June 18th, 2026. Our committee liaison, Sarah Jordan, will provide information and instruction for the public to participate in today's meeting. Sarah, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Lou Rivera. While members of the public are able to attend the meeting in person, this meeting is being televised and live streamed on the city's website, and the council administration will continue to make arrangements for the public to comment using the Zoom webinar platform. Members of the public who wish to provide testimony via a call-in or internet-based service option must enter the virtual queue within 5 minutes after the conclusion of in-person public testimony or before the virtual speaking queue is exhausted, whichever occurs first. This will allow for better meeting management between the two platforms and ensure the committee is able to manage and conduct city business. We appreciate the public's cooperation. Chair.
All right, thank you, Sarah. I will now call the Environment Committee meeting of June 18, 2026 to order. Sarah, if you please call the roll.
Vice Chair Campbell. Here. Council President LaCava.
Present.
Chair Lou Rivera.
Present.
Also attending the meeting today is City Attorney Representative Dominic Guglielmo, Mayoral Representative Randy Wild, and IBA Representative Jordan Moore. And if you're in person, please complete a speaker slip located at the entrance of the committee room and place it in the speaker slip box at the table at the front of the room. Please do so in a timely manner to ensure proper meeting management. Members of the public can also join the webinar by computer, tablet, or smartphone by accessing the link which is listed online in the preamble language of the agenda on the city's webpage. To join the Zoom webinar by telephone, please dial 1-669-254-5252, inputting webinar ID 160-732-9638#. This information is also available on the agenda and will appear on the screen during the public comment period for each agenda item. Please note that if you're watching via City TV 24 or online, there may be delay. Please participate via the audio on your phone and mute your computer and TV when it is your turn to speak. If you wish to speak to a particular item, please wait for that item to be called and then raise your hand to speak by tapping the raise your hand icon if you're a Zoom participant, or if you are a phone participant by selecting *9 on your phone. If you raise your hand during a non-comment period, your hand will be lowered. Chair.
All right, thank you, Sarah. We've got a quorum. Let's move to non-agenda public comment. Do we have any non-agenda public comment today?
Yes, we've received 3 speaker slips here in the committee room, and we currently have 3 hands raised, and per Rule 2.7, non-agenda public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the committee, and each speaker will have 2 minutes to provide their non-agenda public comment. We will begin with allegedly Audra. Please approach the lectern, and you will be followed by Joyce Anyata and Maximilian Schmidt.
I would like to bring to your attention something that's happening in Rancho San Diego in the Cajon School District with the mosquito infestation in the schools. There's been dozens of reports, evidently because of the condensation from the AC above these children's heads. They're breeding, and there's a lot of children and teachers that are sick, and I just would like to bring this to our attention because there has been a release of 64 million mosquitoes from Google, and they're Bill Gates mosquitoes. Evidently they are doing it because this is what they say, is that it's to kill other mosquitoes. But it's a concern when these are being released and there's an infestation in schools and kids are getting sick. So I think that you guys need to take heed and look into making sure that the schools in San Diego are not going to be having this type of an infestation where it's going to put children and teachers at risk of getting sick. Who knows what illness can potentially come, especially from mosquitoes that we don't really know. When they're geoengineered, we're not really sure the effects of that. It kind of comes as they're being released, and then there's going to have to be mitigation that it comes at some point when people find out exactly what potentially could be being transmitted. But I think it would behoove you guys to make sure that the schools here are not going to face that same kind of infestation. And I don't know what would need to be done necessarily, but potentially keeping an eye on the ceilings and making sure that there isn't moisture, which is a perfect place for them to breed. So please protect the children in San Diego City.
Thank you. Maximilian? Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Joyce Anyata, you are next. Maximilian, you will be after Joy.
Good afternoon. This is part 2 from yesterday. And it's very different than I thought it would be. And it's too long a story to tell you how I got to this. So here we go. So first of all, 2 thank yous. Thank you to Chief Wall for teaching me about unless proven otherwise. And thank you to Terry Figueroa. She's the one who wrote the article that I love so much in the Union Tribune. It's dated May 27 of 2026. The two people helped me resolve my hating the hated. Now I have love for Caleb Vasquez. I have love for him. Only Caleb can tell us his story of what happened the year that preceded the mosque attack. Like each of us, his story is sacred and very personal. Now I hold in my heart all five of the people who died that tragic day. Let us hold our dear ones close in our hearts, for life is fragile. It's fragile in the mystery of its power. It's fragile in the mystery of its power. I say those words and I still don't get them yet, but I do believe in them. Thank you for listening, and a big love to all of you.
Thank you. Maximilian?
Hi, my name is Max. I'm just your average Joe from Ohio, and I used to be mentally confused or mentally abused. Some call it mind control via telepathy and people who are telepathic. There's no technology involved. And just want to say I figured out some things that I thought can maybe help people. One, mind control revolves around the person disassociating and being made paranoid to the point that they disassociate for comfort. And you can actually help someone by having them hold their chin completely still and look straight ahead, because mind control victims are constantly moving their neck back and forth, and the people around them constantly have stiff necks and stand still to make the person uncomfortable. But anyway, I wanted to also draw awareness to the owl, the bird that's the symbol of Freemasonry. That bird actually represents mind control because it turns its head so much, and its head can actually turn all the way around, just like a mind control victim's neck is constantly moving. And I also wanted to share some mantras. Oh yeah, and when the person holds their chin, tell them to look directly ahead. And if they look directly ahead and their eyes blur, they could be a mind control victim and unaware of it. So this is actually a test for people who maybe don't know if they're a mind control victim or not. The test to do it is hold your head completely still. Don't move your neck like an owl, and look straight ahead. And while you look straight ahead, see if your vision gets blurry. And if you cannot do that for 30 seconds without your vision getting blurry or feeling nervous, then you are a mind control victim and unaware of it. And some mantras that can help people are Area 51 Nevada, prayers about forgiveness, prayers to relieve suicidal ideation, and Area 51 Nevada actually gets your mind stimulating and thinking if you repeat that mantra. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes testimony here in the committee room. So I'll begin the 5-minute timer for those in the virtual queue to indicate if they wish to provide non-agenda public comment. We currently have 7 hands up, and we will begin with Madison. Please unmute and begin.
Hello, good afternoon. I would like to talk about an environmental impact of tobacco and vape waste on our communities, waterways, and wildlife. Cigarette butts are the most littered item in the world, and they are commonly found throughout San Diego, in parks, along streets, near storm drains, and on our beaches. Many people don't realize that cigarette filters are made of plastic. Rather than biodegrading, they break down into microplastics, while also releasing toxic chemicals such as nicotine, arsenic, and lead into the environment. Studies have shown that even a single cigarette butt can contaminate large amounts of water, harming fish and other aquatic life. E-cigarettes create an additional environmental challenge. Disposable vapes and e-cigarette devices contain plastics, heavy metals, and lithium batteries. When improperly discarded, they can leak hazardous material into soil and waterways, contribute to landfill waste, and create fire risks within waste management systems. These products are increasingly common, yet there are few convenient options for proper disposal or recycling. As San Diego continues its environmental stewardship, I encourage the committee to consider the growing impact of tobacco and vape waste. Public education, improved collection and disposal programs, and policies that hold manufacturers accountable for the environmental costs of their products are practical steps that can help reduce this pollution stream. Protecting our beaches, bays, wildlife, and neighborhoods requires attention to both large and small sources of pollution. Tobacco and vape waste may seem minor, but collectively they represent a significant and preventable environmental burden. Thank you for your time and your commitment to protecting San Diego's environment.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Becky Rapp. Please unmute and begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Becky Rapp, and with summer here, I had the privilege last week to spend time with my kids at the beach and enjoy our beautiful coastline. But I was shocked by how many people I observed smoking and vaping. Our beaches are filled with visitors from around the country and around the world. What message are we sending when people see smoking and vaping occurring openly on our beaches? San Diego should be known for clean beaches, clean air, and environmental responsibility, not tobacco and vape litter scattered across our sand and near our waterways. But this pollution isn't coming solely from tourists. A recent San Diego State University study conducted in Pacific Beach found that cigarette butts made up 87% of all tobacco product waste collected near storm drains that discharged into Mission Bay wetlands. It's important to also know that the research was conducted during the off-season between December and March, when visitor numbers are much lower. Researchers estimated that approximately 80 new cigarette butts are discarded every day in the study area, demonstrating that this is an ongoing local problem, not just a seasonal tourism issue. The study also found that cleanup efforts alone are not enough. Cigarette butts quickly return after collection, and researchers estimated that cleanups would need to occur every other day to substantially reduce pollution levels. As we enter one of the busiest beach seasons of the year, I urge this environmental committee to focus on stronger enforcement of existing smoking and litter laws at our beaches, bays, and parks. More visible enforcement, public education, and compliance efforts can help prevent this pollution. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Ann Skelly, please unmute and begin.
Good afternoon, Environment Committee Chair Elo Rivera. My name is Terry Ann Skelly. I'm a parent of 3 adult sons and a planning group member. My planning group had a presentation regarding fire safety from the county's Fire Safe Council. My planning group is concerned about tobacco and marijuana smoking and vaping on our hiking trails and small sidewalks that connect the neighborhoods in the area. Marijuana and tobacco products are discarded out on the trails and sidewalks, creating a hazard for fires. And legally, vaping products are considered toxic wastes. We need much better signage in those areas where they are smoke-free and vape-free. I am hoping the city departments that would be responsible for the signage could do so. And now would be the time to prohibit smoking and vaping in all public places in our city, and the Environment Commission is a place for this policy to originate. The goal of Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights, a 40-year-old premier public health nonprofit organization, is to create a smoke-free, vape-free generation of Americans that rejects tobacco and marijuana use, and that are savvy to tobacco and marijuana industry tactics. This committee and the city could signal their understanding that the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the land we enjoy are precious by bringing forward a smoke-free and vape-free public places ordinance, like so many other cities throughout our county. Thank you for hearing my concerns this afternoon.
Thank you for your comment. The 5-minute timer has exhausted with 4 hands remaining in the queue. We will take no other callers beyond these 4 hands raised. Peggy Walker, please unmute and begin.
Hello. As an environmental advocate, I found a recent study about the environmental risks of the cannabis industry deeply concerning. Cannabis is marketed as natural, organic, and earth-friendly, but the reality of commercial cultivation tells a different story. Indoor cannabis production generates greenhouse gas emissions with a carbon intensity that rivals the most energy-hungry manufacturing processes on the planet. Because the city is considering marijuana expansion, I wondered if this committee is aware of this and other environmental challenges and the lack of regulations to mandate improvement. Energy consumption is the largest environmental concern with cannabis production, which is overwhelmingly concentrated in energy-intensive indoor cultivation. It poses water consumption issues. Cultivation of this water-thirsty plant creates a significant resource conflict in water-stressed California and our region. And pesticides remain problematic. Or outdoor grows present challenges of drift to neighboring properties and to waterways. Heavy use of fungicides and miticides in indoor grows present both environmental and health concerns. These complicated issues deserve more than a superficial glance, considering long-term environmental stewardship is a city priority. A model that fails to address sustainable environmental practices should be a critical consideration before allowing the expansion of this market. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Blair Beekman, please unmute and begin.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman. There is simply a growing, continuing political will in the past year in the city of San Diego and across the country to no longer do business with a block corporation and to look for a better principled ALPR vendor. Do we do this, or do we simply give up the ALPR vendor process altogether and work out new data collection arrangements with Ubiqua, the official owners of newer SDALPRs? And from this, we should be working on something of a yearly review process and how to create a small reduction of unnecessary or redundant surveillance technology and ALPR use from local San Diego neighborhoods each year. With more thoughtful, strategic, and efficient tech placement planned each year, this will not overly limit or much take away from the current use of surveillance tech within San Diego neighborhood public safety concerns. But it will also develop consistent, responsible yearly reduction of unnecessary surveillance tech, and to work towards more clear ideas of better principled, more responsible community tech use, more clear oversight. I feel this can be good consensus building and compromise for everyone in San Diego, and as ways to develop a step-by-step process towards our more sustainable, responsible San Diego future with tech. I've often been describing for months now how both the City of Oakland and the County of Alameda are creating good examples of an 18-month process of full community input and best practices to leapfrog for a new, better principled ALPR vendor. A final reminder that it's my understanding that former San Diego Councilperson Monica Montgomery Stepp has always felt that the numbers of new ALPR purchases for San Diego neighborhoods a few years ago would eventually be reduced. And to conclude, I simply feel we need an open, accountable, full community conversation about SDPD procedures and guidelines within the future of ALPR use in real time. Thanks for your time. I'll have new ways to say this in the coming weeks. Thanks for your time and patience. Hope for a good meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you. Judy Strang, please unmute and begin.
Good afternoon, Environment Committee. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. Please proceed.
Thank you. But my work environment is always a little difficult. I recently had a conversation with an elementary school student that surprised me. First of all, he was able to articulate very clearly the health problem he had. And I'm assuming that's because one of his parents is a doctor. But he has asthma. And he has a very extreme reaction to smoke and to vape. And he explained to me why it was. And he asked me if I knew the difference between how tobacco smoke was, or smelled, if you will, inhaled, and marijuana smoke. And I said, yes, you can tell the difference. He said, well, marijuana smoke, he's educating me, you know, it smells like a skunk. And I said, yes, it's pretty noticeable. And he was talking about his very difficult experience to be in an environment where that occurred, because it caused him not to be able to breathe. And thank goodness he knows clearly how to use his inhaler. I went home and did some research, and I found out that for 10% of the population, they actually have a very strong allergic reaction to marijuana smoke and vape. And we're talking about 10%. Another large percentage, as you can imagine, are extremely uncomforted by marijuana smoke and vape. And this situation isn't decreasing in problems for our children regarding asthma and inhaling smoke and vape, be it tobacco or marijuana. You've heard several people introduce the concept of a smoke-free, vape-free public place policy that could begin with the Environment Committee. And I'd like to add my voice of support for that. After listening to his very careful explanation of his health issues and his understanding of what smoke and vape could do to him and other children, I think it's time. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final caller in our queue today is Hector. Please unmute and begin.
All right. This is a good thing for the environment. San Diego, with El Nino coming in this winter, it's going to hit us with a lot of water. I was in Beijing like 5 years ago in February, and we got there to the hotel, and all night it started snowing. It covered the whole ground about 1.5 feet in the morning, and there were 30,000 Chinese guys with old brooms, shovels, and rickshaw things, like wheelbarrows, and they cleared the whole city out before dark. It was amazing. There were people everywhere. They had no snow plows, but they did the job. All these Chinese guys, thousands of them, and huge cities, like 10 million people, and cleared out the city. We should do the same in our riverbeds. Instead of doing millions of dollars on backhoes, get everybody out there on a Saturday and start taking all the rocks out, put them in a city bin, take all the sand out with shovels and buckets like Home Depot, put it in the city dumpster. We can sell the sand, and everyone can bring out their own dumpsters for the green dumpsters and the trash dumpsters, the actual people that live there, and fill those things up with trash and the greenery, and then the city can dump it there, take it with the trucks, and everyone's cool end of the day. And then we do that every weekend until the channels are cleared. We can even use labor from the food stamp program. They have to work 4 hours a week or 20 hours a week. We can use that, or just the actual people that live around there, or other people. Just call for volunteers and get the job done. Learn how to do it. It would save the city millions, and we can open up more libraries and different fun things for the kids to do. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, and Chair, this concludes non-agenda public comment this afternoon.
All right, thank you. Thank you to everyone who shared comment. Do we have any committee, mayor, city attorney, or independent budget analyst comments? Here. All right, let's move to our agenda for today, beginning with the consent agenda. Do we have any requests to pull any items? No requests to pull. Let's move forward with public comments, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. The public comment period for the consent agenda is now open. The consent agenda includes items number 1 through 6. Item 1 is the approval of the committee minutes of May 21st, 2026. Item 2, 6th amendment to extend and to increase expenditure authority for the cooperative procurement contract between the City of San Diego and Rarick Pacific Company for waste carts, recycling carts, cart parts, bins, and related products and services. Item number 3, authorization to execute a contract with North Star Chemical Incorporated for bulk delivery of sodium hydroxide 50% to the North City Pure Water Facility. Item number 4, authorization to execute a contract with North Star Chemical Incorporated for bulk delivery of sulfuric acid 93% to the North City Pure Water Facility. Item number 5, authorization to execute a sole source contract with Rotork Controls Incorporated to provide as-needed technical services, repairs, and parts at Public Utilities Department facilities. And item number 6, authorization to execute a contract with Aztec Landscaping Incorporated to provide landscape maintenance services at Public Utilities Department water and wastewater facilities. Each speaker will have 1 minute with a maximum of 3 minutes to speak to all 6 items on the consent agenda. We received 3 slips here in the committee room, so we will begin with allegedly Audra. You have indicated you wish to speak to all 6 items, so I will place 3 minutes on the clock for you to manage.
Yes, and everything has to do with everything. So, you know, as we talk about affordable utilities and just anything that has to do with the water or, you know, power, things like that, but especially the water and repairs that need to be done to pipes and things, these are going to, you know, when we're putting in chemicals like lye and sulfuric acid that are extremely corrosive, in fact, people use lye to dissolve bodies, you know, it destroys tissue. So it's like there's no way for you to actually completely take it out and remove it from the water that you are removing solids from. And I find it interesting that you would use something to dissolve the solid into the water when if you could do some kind of, you know, straining it out. I mean, I just find that interesting that we're going to use a chemical to do that. Then we need another chemical to get that out. And again, there's no way to be able to excrete all of those from the water. And if it's corrosive to a solid like a body, it destroys tissue, then it's going to be corrosive to the pipes. And so you're going to need to do more repairs. And, you know, when we are, I mean, there's also things like pharmaceuticals and human remains that are in the water that I don't feel like you guys would be able to fully remove. Especially when people are, you know, having abortions and they're flushing. I'm just saying that goes into the water, and so how are you able to remove those types of things and all of the pharmaceutical drugs that go in there? And when we talk about putting these chemicals in here, I'm like, okay, well then we have data centers and or, you know, lithium mining and things like that are requiring fresh water. And when they go, like the data centers in certain areas that are coming out right now, the people, when they turn on the water, it's like a black, just very sludgy, almost like substance that comes out. And so when they're taking our fresh water to go and use it, the runoff from that is actually destroying and the water that we're supposed to be drinking. I understand that it's not happening right now, but the utilities and the power is also something that's very concerning, like I was talking about before, Joe, and you were agreeing that it's concerning that you would want to keep on a data center over the people. So making sure that a data center can stay on while the people don't have power, I feel is very egregious. Again, like if we're giving fresh water to something else, when as human beings, we shouldn't be giving ourselves all of these toxic chemicals that we're putting in there. So, I mean, I just want you guys to really think about that. Like, I mean, make that make sense, that these things have priority over the people. And all of the things that are being brought in, I mean, that lithium mining, all of the, it's detrimental to public health. So let's not, you know, sacrifice the people for data.
Thank you. Joyce and Yada, you've indicated you wish to speak to items 2 through 6, so I will place 3 minutes on the clock for you to manage.
Thank you. On number 2, I'm going to do a special shout out and sending love to Kirby Brady. This is her item. All right, so on number 2, the 6th Amendment to REREG Pacific for waste, recycling carts and all of that. So underrepresentation includes female and professional and laborers, Asian, American Indian, and female and operative workers. It appears that they did their due diligence when they modified the pricing on these chemicals. And so I read all of that. It looks pretty good. And you know how I used to whine about the chemicals in the past and the pricing. So this funding will come from the Solid Waste Management Fund. On number 3, yes on all of these, by the way. So North Star Chemical hydroxide. This is for the North City pure water, which I really love. I'm really excited to be alive when that's going to be coming forward. So on the EOC, workforce agreement was submitted to LA County because they're called LA County employees. So I don't get all that, but so we had 21 employees under representation, African American and female in transportation, female in management and financial, and operative workers. I think I'll skip that. Number 4, yes to executing the contract again. This is North Star for sulfuric acid. Under the EOC, we have underrepresentation, female in management and financial and operative workers, African American and female in transportation. Again, the workforce, same procedure with the LA County employees. On number 5, yes to executing the contract with Rotork Controls. It's tech services, and you know I love tech services. So under the EOC, we have underrepresentation in African American, female in sales and professionals, Latino in A&E, science and computer, female and operative workers again. I really love the EOC reports on these items. Can you just see how much we're missing? On the last one then, on the last one, yes. So again, a yes, this is Aztec and landscaping, EOC underrepresentation, Asian and females in sales, Asian in admin support, female in admin workers, African American, Asian, Native American, Pacific Highlanders, and female in laborers. So anyway, I had a paragraph to go, but there you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your concluding remark. Maximilian? And you've also indicated you wish to speak to items 1 through 6, so I will place 3 minutes on the clock for you to manage to speak to those consent agenda items.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I love my First Amendment right, and that's, I use it in a very direct way, and I just wanted to let that be known first. I just wanted to say that I am opposed to item number 1, the committee minutes, until the USA releases a public service announcement that people across the world need to hold their chin and keep it completely straight for a 15-minute timer so that they can have mental freedom, because they may be a mind control victim and unaware, especially those living in communist countries. I'll simply call that holding your chin still for 15-minute test. I'm going to say for item 2, the Sixth Amendment to extend and to increase expenditure authority. I want to say that I'm opposed to item 2 until the USA releases a public service announcement that people across the world need to hold their chin completely still for 15 minutes to see if they're a mind control victim. For item number 3, authorization to execute a contract with North Star Chemical. I'm opposed to it until the USA releases a public service announcement that, again, people need to hold their chin completely still for 15 minutes to see if they're a mind control victim. And the USA can give freedom to millions of people, especially those living in communist countries like Russia, freedom and to fight communism. I want to say for item 4, I'm also opposed to it. And for item 5 and 6, I'm opposed to all 3 of those items until the USA works to fight communism abroad, works to even help those in the United States who may be mind control victims, maybe living in cults and not know it. It is a simple test that I'm requesting the San Diego City Council or the federal government or anyone to make a simple public service announcement that until the world's population of the entire world is told to hold their chin completely still for 15 minutes, and then if their eyes start blinking rapidly or if their vision blurs, they'll know that they are a mind control victim, and many in communist countries can actually become aware they are a mind control victim by the simple 15-minute test. And then after the 15-minute test, They need to practice holding their chin still to have true mental freedom. I think this could start people's revolutions in communist countries across the world, and I think this can even help people in America. And I think the USA knows about how mind control victims cannot stop moving their neck and have their head constantly on a swivel, and that they can have mental freedom if they are forced to do a 15-minute test to keep their chin completely still by holding it with their hand. They may find out, oh my gosh, my vision blurred when I did that 15-minute test, or oh my gosh, I started blinking rapidly during that 15 minutes test. I'm a mind control victim and unaware, and then they can start to question their communist government.
Thank you. That exhausts comment here in the committee room, so I'll begin the 5-minute timer for all those in the virtual queue to indicate if they wish to provide comment on the consent agenda.
Thanks, Eric. If I just really quickly could remind folks that the comments do need to be about what's on the consent agenda. Thank you.
And I will begin with Blair Beekman. If you can please unmute and indicate which item or items you wish to speak to.
Oh, hi, yeah. Thank you, Blair Beekman. Item 1, the previous meeting minutes.
All right, 1 minute, please begin.
Yeah. Hold on, thank you. Right out here. Yeah, Blair Beekman. I had to step outside of the library that I'm in. Not making a lot of noise. I wanted to be able to offer, you have wastewater items you were working on consent on the previous meeting minutes. You have wastewater items actually on the consent today. Smart water, what's its name? Pure water, geez. Very sorry about that. Pure water system thing. On both previous consent calendars and this consent calendar, good luck with your pure water work. I think you're finding ways to not so much aggrandize it and make it as the second coming of everything, but just give it its place. If it can be helpful in some ways, certainly can be helpful with how we work with Mexico in the future. Good luck in a mellow approach. Future pure water. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Hector, please unmute and indicate which item or items you wish to speak to on the consent agenda.
Just one item, the trash can thing.
All right, 1 minute, please begin.
I would like to admonish young people, young environmentalists out there that believe in climate change and all this other stuff. The climate change from yesterday it was bright and sunny, and now it's like foggy. So the climate change is measured in centuries, not decades. It's measured in centuries. So it's just a weather change, that's all it was. But anyway, on the trash cans, recycle the existing trash cans instead of grinding them up and making them plastic fumes. When they recycle plastic like that, they create a bunch of dangers in the atmosphere. And they could have recycled the existing trash cans, sold them to La Mesa, or just reuse them. Reuse is better than recycling. We really failed on that. Instead of reusing them, we recycled them, polluted the environment even more. So that was kind of the weird thing for those guys. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, this concludes testimony on consent agenda items 1 through 6.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have any comments, questions, or a motion on the consent items? We've got a motion from Council President LaCava, a second from Vice Chair Campbell. I don't see any other questions or comments. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. The consent agenda passes unanimously, and that brings us to item 7. Our first discussion item. Sarah, if you'd please introduce that item.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 7, Utilities Undergrounding Program Utility Pole and Overhead Line Exception Requests. And if you're watching on City TV or the live stream and you'd like to dial in to speak, please call 1-669-254-5252, including webinar ID 160-732-9638 #. Sure.
All right, thank you, Sarah. If our presenters would please introduce yourselves for the record and let us know how much time you'd like for your presentation.
Thank you, Chair Ela Rivera. Chelsea Clacius, Deputy Director in the Transportation Department. With me is Interim Deputy Director Jenny Reynolds. We need 7 minutes for this presentation.
Please proceed.
Thank you very much. I'll pass it to Jenny.
Thank you, Chelsea. What we've discussed last time, I just want to do a quick, big, little background on why we're here. So in way background, statute 61.0508, that gives city council the authority district, much like the one pictured on the screen. It is this authority that the UUP team worked with utility owners and asked them to underground all poles and wires in the area. Every single pole under this authority is required to be removed, except if city council grants a pole or line exception under statute 61.0512. This allows city council to grant exceptions when an unusual circumstance exists, as long as it's not detrimental to public health, safety, or the general welfare. And as a reminder, we were here in April with 2 exceptions were granted as well. So why are we here? The UUP staff initiated the rollout of the municipal code enforcement for UUP project schedules. Alongside this effort, UUP underwent a review of existing projects to ensure alignment and compliance. It was during this review that the quality management team, they're the team responsible for ensuring all projects meet city standards and are closed out promptly, identified several projects without the required approval from city council to retain certain poles or overhead structures as mandated by the municipal code. That brings us here today. We are here because there are 10 Rule 28 projects with over 200 lines of data. Rule 28 projects are particularly difficult projects because of their size and shape. And as you'll learn, I'll go through that in a little bit more detail and you'll kind of see that in the pictures. But it's also important to know that for every line exception that we're asking for today, there is a adjacent project boundary that it will get picked up in. So nothing that we're asked to be accepted will stay accepted permanently. There are 4 current reasons utilities are asking for exceptions. And I want to just make it clear that in this case, in every case, it's the utility partners who are asking for the exceptions, not the city itself. They asked, and then also another point is that we did not accept all the requests that were made. There were some requests that the day came that we decided not to bring to council. So we've only done this for a select few that make the most sense. So the 4 current reasons utilities are asking for exceptions. The most common request is the request we came with last time, which is pole and line support properties outside the boundary. The second is there is a temporary feeder property inside the boundary. The third is that there's trenching that would require outside the boundary work. And finally, in one case, there's a temporary legal constraint. So I want to take a second just to review. These are all the exception requests, a summary of them, and sorted by council district. Just give you a second to look at that. What I'm going to do, since there are a lot of projects to go through, is I'm going to go through them one by one and just show you the photos. Ones that require anything that feeds outside the boundary. As you can see in this request, the vast majority are feeding outside the boundary, which is when the wires are inside the boundaries, but they're feeding properties that are outside the boundary district. So we'll start with Council District 2, Molesta Drive, Beagle Street. As you can see, it's a 28 project. In every case, this pole and wire are serving properties outside the undergrounding district. And in every case, there's an undergrounding exception will get incorporated to adjacent projects. As you can see in this picture, both 1 and 2 of these wires will remain, but anything feeding into those poles will be removed. Same thing with detail B and C. D and E, it's the same. Those lines will stay, but anything feeding into those lines will be removed. That's the only one in Council District 2 and Council District 3. We have Lincoln Avenue, another 20A. Again, this one is poles or an overhead line serving property outside the boundary district. And in every case, like I said before, they'll be picked up in an adjacent property. As you can see in all the pictures, those lines will stay. Same here, those lines will stay, but the lines feeding into those poles will be removed. Same thing with these photos as well for Lincoln Avenue. And these as well. 30th Street 3B, another 28. This one has poles and overhead lines serving outside of boundaries as well as a temporary legal constraint that I'll go into in a little bit more detail. Feeding outside the boundary. Both picture 1 and 2 are feeding outside the boundary. Picture one is where I'll just take a temporary pause and say that is the home where the homeowner is basically stating that they can't do any more construction because it's a historical home, and so they're asking for a temporary legal pause. So the work around there, especially Cox Communication that has those lines that are feeding into the home, they don't want to do any work until the legal constraint is uplifted. Again, this is a legal constraint with the utility owners, not with the city in general. Moving on to the next one, Howard Avenue, Phase 1, number 28. Pole and overhead line serving outside the boundary. As you can see in picture 1 and 2. Details of B and C. Howard Avenue, Phase 2, another 28. In this case, the pole and overhead lines serve outside the boundaries, and there's also a relocation of 2 lines that requires trenching to restore property outside the boundary. And so I'll take a moment and detail D. Those are the 2 lines that if the exception wasn't requested, we would have to actually trench outside the property boundary. We don't have authority to do that. So we would have to get authority to do that, to do this. So we're asking for the exception. It will be picked up in an adjacent property boundary. These are all serving outside the boundary. Again, serving outside the boundary. And serving outside the boundary. Council District 8, this is 28th Street. Pole and overhead lines serving properties outside the property boundaries. You can see in detail A and B, these are lines that will be serving outside the property boundaries. Again, lines that are feeding into those poles will be removed. Picture 1 and 2, same thing. Same thing here with detail D. Council District 9, 31st Street, another 28. These are pole and overhead lines serving properties within and outside the property district. So those lines will stay, but feeding into those lines will be removed. These lines are, again, being requested to be exempted because they're serving outside the property boundary. Same thing with these photos and with these. 32nd Street Phase 2. There's 1 utility pole and 1 line that's being requested serving outside the boundary, and a temporary overhead feed for one of them, and the other one is a temporary feed inside the property boundary. So you see picture 1, it's hard to tell that there's actually lines feeding a trailer. It's a temporary structure. So they won't underground a temporary structure. So once that becomes a permanent structure, then they'll underground those lines there, so that will happen. And finally, Hilltop Drive Phase 1, serving overhead lines property outside the property district. Seminole Phase 2, again, 1 pole, 1 line because of serving outside the property boundary. And looking ahead. So looking ahead, we talked about this last time, and we're going to continue to do this, that as properties come into our district creation mode, we're going to walk them with that in mind so that we can, at district creation, make sure that we're making the property boundary the right one and excluding those that serve outside the property boundary. We're also working on an SOP that we're going to deliver to all the utility providers so that they are aware of our process as well and be able to do this seamlessly in the future. We will have more of these come down, but this was the bulk of the second ones that we mentioned last time we were here in April that were coming through. These are all of the old ones that for projects that are a little bit older. Now we'll be seeing ones that are coming through the normal construction mode. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
To do every part of the city? The people, but it's interesting the way the government does stuff, because you're like, we have to create this and then go into, but if you had plans to go into, why wouldn't you find a way to just, and you know, there can be a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse in any of these programs that come forward, as far as contractors go and taking longer and just, you know, drawing out the process, because that's how, you know, you can make more money in you know, providing something. And I feel like it's kind of like bike lanes, like you have a requirement to provide them so that you can get the funding, but it doesn't really matter if they go anywhere. It's just a matter of actually implementing it. And so I feel like, is this kind of like the same thing? As long as you implement it in sporadic places all over the place, eventually maybe in 50 years, it'll all be underground? I mean, and how long is that process going to be drawn out, even potentially longer than that? Because again, that's how you make money. And these things came forward because of fires. I understand that, but these fires were not necessarily what people have been told, especially like the Paradise fires. They wanted to put that fast speed train through there, and nobody wanted to sell their property, so they came and burnt it down, and it was actually more like a war zone. Cars were flipped over, trees were burning from the inside out, and that's not from utilities, that's from a directed energy weapon. And in the Palisades, they can use surges to go into the house. I mean, when you see brush and landscape that has been untouched, yet the fire has, touched other things that, it's just, whatever.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maximilian Schmidt.
Hi, concerning the transportation department's overhead lines PowerPoint, which are also known as power lines, one of the bullet points was to ensure better data collection. And I just wanted to say that when we're collecting data about power lines, to think about how to make these projects better. I just wanted to say, I wish we could collect data on the power lines that actually make static noise, that could subconsciously make someone paranoid by a really audible level, or maybe even being too loud, or worst of all, possibly literally the static noise changing pitch or tone synchronized to someone's body movements that they are unaware of that is going on, and become subconsciously paranoid. I wish that there was data collection on if any power lines and the static noise coming from them could be used for nefarious reasons to try to make someone paranoid. And then I believe that if the person is in a paranoid state, they may be unaware, but they also may be more impressionable. And then some may call this a mind control on a grand scale. And I believe that when the person is more impressionable, I believe there's a possibility that once they become more impressionable by maybe power line projects that have ulterior motives, I believe the point of the power lines making someone possibly paranoid, or even oddly hanging over someone's head to make them, the power line may actually be the most terrifying thing for a mind control victim to look at who's unaware that they're a mind control victim. But I just wanted to say that they may be made to believe in socialist agendas when they're impressionable.
Thank you. Joyce and Yada?
Okay, so Max, thank you, because he said something that was not on my notes about the collection of data. And some of you know that I want to start adding qualitative data to our quantifiable data. And so it would be interesting, because there's so much going on with the collaboration and the outreach involving this happening, with our community members. So, what is the quality of the relationship? What is the quality of the outreach? So, thank you, Max, because I think that it's something that we can do better, and we can start adding this to a lot of our departments. I hope that'll happen. So I just want to talk about this from a public standpoint. When I sat down to look at this, I was really blown away. I thought, oh my God, this is what happens in my community. This is what's getting done when I'm out doing my little errands and things. This is what's being done. It's so huge, isn't it? I mean, I tried to count the backup. I lost track. I got 50 to 60 items in the backup. And the staff report is 7 pages. And I like exceptions to the rule. I really do. So, 10 projects, 29 exceptions requests. So this is good stuff. And, we can look at improvements, we can talk about things that aren't working and all that, and we need to do that. But at the same time, for me, there's so much I need to be appreciative of, that all these beautiful people that work for us and the outside contractors and everything, how we get it done, I'll never know. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll begin the 5-minute timer for those in the virtual queue to indicate if they wish to provide comment on item number 7. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. We currently have 2 hands raised, and we'll begin with Blair Beekman. Please unmute and begin.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman. I have to quickly dash outside the library. I'm in Tacoma still, the Tacoma County Library, and it's kind of interesting here. Really great mineral lake swimming right on the border. I wanted to comment, this is my week to camp out here, it's been pretty good. But I wanted to comment that thanks for this item, thanks for the comments of DRA. I don't know if this is a time to just get stuff out in the open a bit, but she described exactly how I feel about our fire prevention issues. It's really important what you're doing with these undergrounding things, I think. I think it simply describes a good future of what we're trying to build and work towards. It's safe. It's the details of such efforts, but it just really feels as if it's a good thing to do. So thank you for these types of efforts of undergrounding. I think it is important, but we have to be very clear in that process, in our fire prevention, there are a lot of components at play. It isn't just a fire just sparked itself and started. There's a lot of real estate issues involved, as DRA has said, often that has been the case. And we have to acknowledge those sort of subject matter, and we don't. We know how to say it very hush-hush and not just make it a regular, open, everyday part of the conversation of fire prevention. And good luck how we have to do that so we don't have to come in all freaked out about it. And it can just be a fact of life that we need to better address and ask for it to stop, basically. And good luck how we do that. Thanks for your time. Thanks for this item and what you're doing.
Thank you. Hector, please unmute and begin.
Thanks. Yeah, SDG&E made $2 billion last year's profits. We don't need to accommodate those guys to do this. They can pull power from another neighborhood. They might put another pole or something, but I would say don't give them make them pull the poles. In each neighborhood in itself, pull all the poles. If he has a temporary power, that go in the house, you could pull it off the neighbor. You could just pay the neighbors, I've done this, pay the neighbors utility bill to let you hook up power to build the guy's house. You don't need that much power. But SDG&E doing this to save money. Really fire hazard power lines. The neighborhood power lines are not a fire hazard like the backcountry's got the fire hazard. For those big lines, these are just neighborhood phone lines and power lines, and fires don't break out in North Park because of the telephone poles, something like that. So, but I wouldn't, if you could get something out of SDG&E like lower rates, you might accommodate them. They just want to save money by doing this. And I'd say finish the neighborhood they're working in, pull all the poles, and who knows when they're going to do the next door to the neighbor. Could be like 15 years from now. When they get to the other one, so the pole will be sitting there. So, because my neighborhood, $2 billion last year in profits, SDG&E, so we don't need to accommodate them to save. They're doing it to save money. So, anyway, thanks for your time.
Thank you. And with no other hands up in the queue for item 7, this concludes public testimony.
All right, with that, we'll hand it over to committee members for questions, comments, entertain a motion, beginning with Council President Cava.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation and the work. Given some of the public comment, and I know we have a second item, information items, I don't want to go too much into the overall utility undergrounding program, but it'll give me two chances to thank you for the very good work and how you've really revised the whole utility undergrounding program and to make it work better. And I'll respond to some of the other public comments that were raised on this next item. I believe we heard the exceptions in La Jolla was kind of the first time we were doing that. And I appreciate the thought you did put into it and was certainly supportive of it. Did you mention in your presentation, or was it in the briefing, that in fact there were actually quite a few requests for exceptions and you turned down quite a few of them as well? And these were the ones that actually started to seem valid work. Is that correct, Jenny?
That's correct.
Okay, I don't want to emphasize it because I know sometimes we don't share all the information at moments like this, but I think that's particularly important to know that there is some discretion being used. And actually, it is not about saving SDG&E money, because this is ratepayer money. This is about saving ratepayer money and getting these jobs that have languished for too long, getting them done by making it more efficient, which is why I really appreciate that. So thank you for the good work. Thank you for the briefing on this. And I'll move the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Council President. Now turn to Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to second the motion, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate the hard work. So I support the 10 projects and the exceptions, and I understand why we have to do them. And thank you so much for the briefing ahead of time also. So I second the motion.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. I will reiterate the thank you my colleague shared. And I will call for a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That passes unanimously and brings us to item 8. Sarah, if you would please introduce the item.
Item number 8, status update on the Utilities Underground program. And if you're watching on City TV or the live stream and you'd like to call in to speak, please dial 1-669-254-5252, inputting webinar ID 160-732-9638#. Chair.
All right, thank you so much. For the record, please introduce yourselves again. Let us know how much time you'd like for this presentation.
Thank you very much. Chair Ela Rivera, Chelsea Clacius, Deputy Director in the Transportation Department. With me is Interim Deputy Director Jenny Reynolds. We will need 5 minutes for this presentation.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Chelsea. I want to start by sharing UUP objectives. The Utility Undergrounding Program's guiding principle is to ensure, enhance the public right-of-way, mitigate potential overhead hazards, and elevate the community's quality of life by clearing the sky of overhead lines and replacing them with new, safe, and reliable underground electric, telephone, and broadband communication lines. The UUP main goal is to convert every residential overhead line in San Diego to undergrounding service. In today's presentation, we want to address 4 key areas over the past fiscal year. The 4 areas are operational accountability, community engagement, progress of underground work, and program finances. To begin, let's discuss operational accountability. Earlier this year, the UUP team launched Municipal Code Actual Timelines for Undergrounding Projects. This initiative introduced standardized scheduled baselines for telecommunication providers across the design and construction phase, along with a new compliance framework. As a result, providers are now clearly defined timelines for each phase and are held accountable to those timelines under the municipal code. These timelines keep telecommunication providers responsible for ensuring projects are delivered on time. If the deadline is not met, the city exercises its authority to fine them $1,000 a day. So far, this strategy has been very successful. A total of 133 letters were sent to telecommunication providers notifying them of their compliance obligation. And notably, every single letter received a positive response, achieving 100% engagement as of June of 2026. This full participation has significantly accelerated project timelines. For example, joint trench offers, which is when the telecommunication providers are asked to join SDG&E's trench, which historically has taken about a year to complete, is now being done as little as 4 months with the actual timelines. To improve UUP, 4 items were presented to Environment and City Council over the past year. And I know that we've been here 4 or 5 times, so I know that we probably all remember them, but I'll go through them real quickly just for the sake of this presentation. First, Council Policy 600-08 was updated to remove an outdated Rule 28 language following the program sunset in 2022. The update also clarified administration requirements and added provisions to tree planting as part of the undergrounding program. Second, the updated to master plan was brought forward. This was also because of the conclusion of Rule 28 programs. 132 projects were left unfunded and needed to be incorporated into the master plan. This also addressed gaps and included a comprehensive review of all projects to ensure alignment and optimization. Third, the UUP brought forward 2 exceptions to City Council. This was the first of us making those requests. We just went through that exception process a little bit ago, so I won't go into too much detail, but we also got 2 done in April. And finally, our program environmental impact report was also approved last year. This is a game changer in accelerating the speed to which we can get our projects through environmental review. This comprehensive environmental assessment of the entire program eliminates the need for project-by-project assessment, thus speeding up the review process and figuring out mitigation measures more quickly. All 4 items were unanimously approved by City Council. Now moving on to community engagement, which is an important part of our program. The department hosted 2 community events. One was a pre-designed forum for University City 1S, and the other was for Del Cerro 7U. Both projects represent about 6 miles of future undergrounding. In both cases, UUP and city staff shared project details so residents had the opportunity to learn more about the upcoming project. Following the presentation, a panel of representatives from the city and ENCP, Engineering and Capital Projects team, along with the telecommunication providers and SDG&E, Now turning to the progress of undergrounding work. The city is currently managing 62 underground projects across various stages of development, and that's a really important point because that is the most that we've ever managed at one particular time. Of these, 31% are in active undergrounding construction, 41% are in design phase, and 28% are in post-undergrounding public improvement phase construction. Starting with the progress of the projects in construction, staff is actively managing 19 projects currently in undergrounding construction. Of these 19 projects, 63 are located in high fire risk areas, and 58 are in communities of concern, underscoring the program's focus on public safety and equity. 25 projects are currently in the design phase, representing a significant portion of the program's workload. Bi-weekly coordination meetings help keep these projects on track, moving efficiently towards construction. In addition, monthly schedule variances are monitored against established baselines, and any issues not resolved during the weekly meetings are escalated to management level and discussed with SDG&E to ensure compliance and progress. Here you can see 17 projects currently in post-undergrounding improvement construction. This is the phase where enhancements are completed to include pavement restoration, tree planting, curb ramps, and streetlights. Finally, you can see 3 projects that we completed last year and 1 project that we're recommending for fiscal year 27. This is the first time that we've picked a project since we approved the PEIR and the new master plan with the new prioritization model. Finally, we're going to talk about program finances. Over the past year, the UUP team has partnered with a consultant to develop a 5-year forecasting model. This model provided leadership with a transparent, data-driven outlook on and long-term financial risk. A key component of this effort is tracking how annual revenue from SDG&E franchise fees compares to project design and construction expenditures. As shown in this slide, forecasts indicate that while the fund balance is currently strong, largely due to an earlier program pause, spending could outpace revenue over time. This long-range visibility helps the program to avoid overcommitment and supports more realistic pacing. The forecast is paired with annual updates to project selection, identifying how many miles of undergrounding can be delivered within the budget each year, which is why we picked 1 project this year instead of, say, 5. By aligning the financial projections with project workload, UUP leadership can better prioritize neighborhoods, manage program obligations, and provide clear and transparent timelines to stakeholders. And with that, we'll answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Let's hear public comment, please.
Thank you, Chair. We've received 3 slips here in the committee room. We will begin testimony with allegedly Audra. Each speaker will have 2 minutes.
I know you guys don't like to answer any of my questions, but I think it's important for the people. So, as I understand, you're using the San Diego Gas and Electric franchise fees that you get from them to pay for this, right? Is that? Oh my gosh, okay. And, you know, I guess the concern is that SDG&E owns the lines. Shouldn't it be something that they're paying for? I mean, okay, great, thank you. Because I feel like, you know, they always go above budget, like go above cost, and then pocket the money that they get from the people. And it's like, if they own those lines, why are we putting in money that could go to potentially something else? I mean, it's like coming from them, but it's because they have to pay that in order to do business. So I'm just wondering why the contract has been done like that, and you know, if it has to continue in that way. I mean, is there a way to somehow, you know, look into how this is being done and make sure that, but then I guess the concern too would be that they would put the cost down onto the people anyway, if they were having to fit the bill. But it would be nice if there was something that would hold them accountable for, like, if you're gonna come in below cost and say that you need this much, then take all of that money and do the undergrounding so that the people don't have to fit the bill. So good for Hector for bringing that up, because I didn't really think about it until then. And I also think that we need to be more mindful if we are doing these things for the environment or, you know, safety and stuff like that and fires. We need to quit putting people densely populated in high fire zones without a way to evacuate. That's extremely important, and we should be mitigating that as well.
Thank you. Maximilian Schmidt.
Hi, I just wanted to say that this is a very ambitious plan and massive undertaking for the city of San Diego to try and move all power lines and all, I guess, many electric boxes attached to them completely underground. I don't know how many cities have done that. And I just wanted to say that part of the reason they said is this exceptional award they get on the environmental review. And I just wanted to say that I hope that the sales, property, and cannabis tax, which is already too high, isn't fed into this project to maybe use the environmental review to try to push a climate agenda where you basically exaggerate reasons that the climate may be dangerous to raise taxes. And also I want to say that I hope that the history, when we remove the power lines and put them underground, because I believe San Diego may be one of the first cities to do that in the whole city, I hope that we also draw attention to other reasons why we put power lines underground. I know that in communist countries in the 20th century, all throughout the 20th century, they used power lines to try to abuse their people and even mind control them, to use the static coming from the power line to synchronize to their body motions, to make them subconsciously paranoid, impressionable, and also to sensitize them to the noise of power lines, and also to strategically place power lines over people's head to block out the sky, to also make them paranoid and control them. So I hope we draw awareness to why we're putting these power lines underground, and not just say it's for environmental reasons, but also talk about the history of how power lines have been used to mind control people in communist countries.
Thank you. I'll begin the 5-minute timer for those in the virtual queue to indicate if they wish to provide comment on item number 8. Each speaker will have 2 minutes, and we have 2 hands raised.
Oh wait, what about Joy?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Joy Sunyata, I'm sorry about that. Thank you for speaking up.
Not a problem. Okay, so I'll just give you some points that stood out on the item, and then I want to say a couple of things personally. So, program is funded by surcharge on SDG&E customer bills, yuck. Most construction tasks are executed by SDG&E. 400 miles are now underground. And guess what? There are still 1,000 miles remaining. So hang in there. Now, two things. First of all, slightly off point here, but they're related. I don't feel good about SDG&E, and I don't think I ever will. But I've gotten better over time. But I've got to, President LaCava, this is policy. I've got to find the policy that SDG&E representative referred to, that they based their franchise agreement terms. They based it on a policy that is in place, or more than one policy. I've got to find those policies and find out how in the heck we ended up with that franchise agreement. I think the wool was pulled over our eyes or something. And then Vice Chair Dr. Campbell, I hope I'm not getting this wrong, please forgive me if I am. Was it you that talked about some sort of shenanigans that was being done by SDG&E on the big fire prevention, which it's great what they've done for us on fire prevention. It's fabulous, actually. But was it you or somebody else on council that said something very yucky, that they were skimming off profits or something involving the fire prevention? So I haven't had a chance to investigate that. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Now that concludes public testimony here in the committee room, so I'll begin the 5-minute timer for those in the virtual queue to indicate if they wish to speak to item number 5. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. We will begin testimony with Hector. Please unmute and begin.
Joy, SDG&E definitely was major leaguing us, Scott. They're major leaguing us just like the guys at SeaWorld took us for $70 million. They're major leaguing us too. Like, it's like in baseball when you're in the minors, and then your best buddy in the minors, your best buddy, but then he makes it to the majors, and he forgets who you are, man. When you go to the stadium, that's called major leaguing us. These guys are major leaguing us for decades, but I don't know what we can do about it. I don't think we have the money to get involved with undergrounding. I think we should wait until all the bathrooms are fixed, all the kids are in school, the kids are in their libraries. Any programs like these programs, it's got to be 2 programs south of Highway 8, anything that's happening north of Highway 8. A lot of the North Highway 8 are already underground. But then offer, the guys on the coast, they might want to pay extra to get their stuff underground. I'm sure guys in La Jolla, some of them would buy the whole street just to live in silence. They got money. So I don't know if we should be paying their undergrounding when they could probably pay it themselves. Like when Bill Gates guys moved up to Seattle, bought the whole neighborhood out for millions of dollars just so his wife didn't have to put up with noise. So I don't know, we got some players that might, the Jacobs already underground on La Jolla Canyon over there where they live. It's all underground. So anyway, don't start any new projects, I would. And anything's got to be done south of 94. Because they, they're like being this for such a long time. Anyway, good luck.
Thank you for your concluding remark. Blair Beekman, please unmute and begin.
All right, thank you, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the words from everyone on this item. Nice to hear. Yeah, I'm just learning, and this is new to me. I mean, I think it just naturally seems like a really good thing to be putting things underground. But I mean, are we being robbed by SDG&E at this point in doing it? I think there's also a natural feeling that this is what we need SDG&E for. It's for these big lift projects like this and doing these sort of things. But where can community energy play a part in all of this process? Can we have that conversation? And I mean, I just, as people were talking on this item, you know, like setting up community funding for organizing, you know, the undergrounding within local neighborhoods, coordinating that with city government as a way to reduce costs, possibly. And I don't know, are those the ways to be developing our future of community energy and how that community energy can be using those lines? And I would just love to hear that sort of language and how you talk about these sort of things and not say the words every third sentence. Well, SDG is this and SDG is that, and well, yeah, we use SDG for this. Where is, and with the help of community energy and in the process of, you know, becoming a part of a community energy process more, you know, those words are never ever said, and they really need to be. And thank you that you've allowed 2 minutes for public comment today on these items. Public Safety Committee always only allows 1 minute each day, each time for public comment, and it's really frustrating when there's not even that many people there. You guys have nicely offered 2 minutes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. And Chair, with no other hands in the queue, this concludes comment on item 8.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Let's go to committee comments, beginning with Council President Licata.
Thank you, Chair. This is an information item, so I'll see if I can answer in a brief way some of the questions raised by the public. First, thank you, Chelsea, for the good work. As I said, since you've all come on board, you've really revamped the program, which had a very slow amount of progress. But I think you really tackled some of the issues and have made it more professional and more direct. There still is a cost. It is still an expensive proposition, whatever you think of our investor-owned utility. It is still expensive to underground, above-ground lines. To Joy, I think SDG&E was not referring to policies. I think they were referring to franchise agreements and MOUs.
They used the word policy.
Yeah, but I think that's what I think they were referring to, because there's no city policy that would have encompassed what they were doing. That's my belief. That maybe that's helpful.
Thank you.
There's a web page on that. To the other, one of the other comments, there is no general fund dollars. This is all the surcharge. It's not actually the franchise fees. It's actually the surcharge we put on ratepayers that finances this. So this does not impact the general fund at all. And I guess I'm old enough to remember that this got started not for fire risk, but for aesthetics. People thought above ground utilities were old school and unattractive. Power poles infringe on the public right of way. And that was originally the strategy. And as the years and frankly decades have gone by, we have pivoted to understanding the potential fire risk. So I have a question in that regards. If I remember the map of projects that are underway and compare it to the new, I'm still gonna get to your question, I just almost forgot, but I'll try to get back to you. Only 3 projects were actually in areas that are now outside of high fire risk. It's almost the entire city. There's a little buffer around the bay and the coastlines. And yet our more recent policies had identified fire risk as a criteria about which district. So do you anticipate we're going to change the criteria, because that's almost affects every neighborhood now, being they're all in the high fire risk areas?
Yes, so to answer, thank you very much, Council President. Yes, so the criteria itself was updated and documented when we brought forward the updates to our UUP master plan. Right. It's one of the reasons why we went away from like an annual like update or a 5-year update on exactly which projects will move forward, because as you know, for high fire risk, the map changes, and the map just changed this past year, which impacted how things are prioritized. And so we are still using high fire risk as criteria, and it is based on the most recently updated map. Same with communities of concern. There's also different equity components as well.
Okay, because I know that's, I hear it from my constituents, I suspect my colleagues too, but it's like, we're all in a high risk fire danger.
I could just add one more thing to that, is that part of the MOU requires us to include high fire risk and communities of concern, so there's no way that we see them sort of leaving our criteria priority matrix anytime soon until the MOU is changed.
Right, yeah, no, I get that, I was kind of curious, having, as you said, as the maps have now changed, and it's so expansive, in these kinds of decision makes. I think the other thing that was brought up by the public, I think allegedly Audrey did it, and I think a couple of other folks did, of why we're even in this program. And from their lips to the CPUC's ears, because this is really about state law and what the utility companies are obligated to do. We have the old rule, and my apologies for the acronym, but the Rule 20A, which was a program that said, utilities, you do have to underground them at your own nickel. But all the rest, that is a luxury. That is not a mandate, that is not a requirement. And so the city of San Diego, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, I know you want to answer this, so, but said, cities, you want to do this, you got to figure it out yourself. Now we do mandate our newest communities to underground at the get-go. So if you go to Carmel Valley or Rancho Bernardo, those newer master plan communities, including the ones to the south, they get built with underground utilities, so we don't even have to think about them. And they do pay that surcharge, even though their neighborhoods are already undergrounded. What did you want to add, Chelsea?
I'm a very active listener. No, okay, so yeah, in 1970, that's sort of when the CPUC mandated the undergrounding for the aesthetic reasons. The city qualified under 20A. There were work credits associated with that. That is what sunset. And then also to your point, 1970 is that is approximately the timeline when any new development were to happen. Those had to automatically be undergrounded. So I just wanted to share my agreement. And then for the surcharge program, that is something that started in 2002. So that is something that the city and the SDG&E, that was a permission received and approved by the CPUC. There was a desire to see this expanded as for additional reasons outside of just aesthetics. And that's where we get, a lot of the other improvements of reliability for the surcharge program. But to your point, if the city did not have the surcharge program, all undergrounding would have stopped with the sunset of 20A.
Right, there you go. Yeah, I don't think any of us really would like to be paying for it, but under the current rules, that's where we're at. And I know AT&T and Spectrum and Cox, they do it on their own nickel, which means eventually it goes to their customers that eventually pay for that. There's no special program for that. One can debate about how well the undergrounding program was managed before, but I think the diligence that you're now bringing to the conversation to manage it, keep them on schedule, keep them on budget is really a game changer, so I want to thank you for that. And then I also want to thank you that I guess I made a suggestion last year that I kind of forgot about, but we had been in a habit of everybody wants undergrounding, and so we just kept approving more and more undergrounding utility districts without having the money to actually do that. And so this year you're only coming in with one because you're actually looking at long-term financial projections to determine what can we realistically get into the queue and get done. And I know some of my constituents are very excited about the ones that are in the design phase and getting those into the construction. So we'll circle back later and get a little bit of an update on some of those that are in the design phase. So again, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair, for the time.
Thank you for that, Council President. I appreciate the questions there. The one thing I did want to acknowledge, I think it's a ton of money. So I think that part, I understand why folks see the numbers and the timeline and are blown away by that. And I think there's a fairness to it. I even think the like, is this the thing to pay for? Reflex is understandable. Now, then you start to get into, this isn't pulling away from libraries, right? and where the money is coming from. But I do think it's one of those things that, and this is why we want to have the conversation, is to the extent that folks pay attention to what happens at 2:30 on a Thursday at the Environment Committee. The general idea that there's a reason why this work started and is happening, and there's commitments that have been made that can't be walked away from, and all of that can be true right alongside frustrations with SDG&E and the profits that they make on something that everyday people need. The way that they've, I'd say, rigged the system in a certain way where they, I think the point that Joy was raising, there is infrastructure that SDG&E builds that they are guaranteed a profit on, and I have my issues with how much profit they're guaranteed, and so all of those things can happen simultaneously. That the undergrounding can happen. These are promises that were made and they need to be kept, and the frustrations that we have with folks paying too much on their energy bills can also be true. The excessive profits can be true. The excessive executive pay can be true. So I don't want to dismiss those concerns, but I'll go back to you, Council President.
A couple of comments were mentioned. I think Blair mentioned this. I know Blair refers to community energy, which is what San Diego Community Power does. Mm-hmm. Now a $1 billion operation, so we did hit that threshold. I think what he's referring to is municipalization, the idea that the city or a JPA or some entity would take over from the investor-owned community. There will be a conversation at City Council next week. It is a popular conversation, so we will get an update. We generally refer to it as public power. There will also be a presentation on the compliance committee that is looking at the franchise agreement and whether there has been compliance with all the terms of the agreement and the MOUs that go along with it. So that is happening at City Council next week.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Council President. I don't see any other requests to speak to this item. So that concludes this item, and that is the last item on our agenda, which means we will adjourn the meeting of the Environment Committee to our next regularly scheduled meeting on Thursday, August 20th, 2026 at 1 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
All right, you guys, I encourage you to be paying attention to what's going on in your community if you are not, so that you know what's going on with just the world around you. It's more important than anything. So stay tuned, stay classy, San Diego. It's never a dull moment, and I will be back tomorrow night for an event that I'll be coming to you live from. So God bless everybody. Have a great Thursday.